Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the Monalisa Monroe Morning Show. Grab your coffee and your tea, hunty, because we have a lot to talk about. If you're new to the show, this is what we do. We introduce ourselves, welcome, 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 and then we talk about three red hot topics. And after that, we conclude and I let you go about your merry way. But before we get started, I want to send love, prayers, and concerns out to Texas. I cannot believe the news. If you know me, you know I'm from Texas, and I every day talking to people down there just in concern, hoping and praying that you guys are okay. Now, stay tuned because I do want to talk to my Texas people. But today, right now, I am honored and I'm just, how do we say, I'm just giddy this morning because we have a special guest, Elder Ned Williams. Thank you so much for being my guest this morning.
Thank you.
So for those in Savannah who might not know you, I'm sure everybody knows you. But for those who don't, can you give us a small intro about who you are and what you do, sir?
Sure. I'm Elder Ned Williams. I am an ordained Pentecostal elder.
All right.
But what I'm most proud of is that I've lived long enough and loved my people long enough that I've gone from being pops to elder. And, and hopefully I'll live long enough to be called an old head.
Oh, okay. I heard that. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. And I mean, your reputation basically precedes you, or basic. What's the word I'm looking for? It basically went in front of you because I heard so much about you. I'm just so ready to get started. But let's start with the first thing that we talked about. I mean, once we got started, it was like I wanted to stay on the phone with you, but of course, your day has to go. But just the little bit of information that you have sent me and what we have talked about was extraordinary. So let's just narrow it or hone it in. Black business and development in Savannah. What is your thoughts on that? How are we doing as far as Black business and development goes? And how can we do better?
Okay. Well, of course, my take on it is that we're doing well. Considering what we had to struggle with, we're doing really well. And I want to say now that my perspective is one of an African. I'm an African. I just happen to live in America.
Ah, love it.
And I'm African not because I was born in Africa. I'm African because Africa was born in me. I'm African because I am the most recent descendant of those people who have lived in the birthplace of human beings continuously. See, I'm not African because my skin is dark. I'm
Right.
African because of a culture that is so ancient.
Woo.
It is not my DNA that shapes me. It is my culture that shapes my DNA.
Uh, Elder, you preaching this morning
And
now.
so when I look at a situation, say like in Chatham County and Savannah, I, I think more of control. Wherever Black people live in the world, they live in a hostile space, not just the U.S. If you live in Haiti, Jamaica, if you live on Africa, on the continent of Africa, it's hostile. And
Mm.
so, right, so when people are at war with you, then to talk about things like ownership is really not the approach. We need to talk about control. You can control things you don't own, and you can
Oh,
own things that you don't control.
right.
So
Right.
if you're in a hostile space, well, use the example we like to talk about Christopher Columbus and John Hawkins and all those guys.
Right.
When those guys stumbled on that island, they were starving, they was lost, they was injured, their ship was wrecked. What did they own? Nothing.
Right. Right.
But through violence, they seized control.
Mm.
And so now 400 years later, we're saying French Guiana, British Virgin Islands, the U.S. is how Puerto Rico belong to us. So we want to talk about control. Okay,
Okay.
so what do we control?
So that's good because what do we control when it comes to business and development? How big, I mean, what can we say the percentage is in Savannah of what we control? Not what our businesses
Mhm.
that we own, but what do we control? Because like for instance, like the example that you just used, I might have a construction business, but I don't own it because of loans or because of whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
Someone could uproot me any moment if
Mhm.
I don't pay a bill or
Mhm.
whatever the case may be. So is that what you're sort of referring to when you talk about ownership versus
Yes,
yeah.
yes. Because what will happen, for instance, I have a great interest in an area that I call Greater West Savannah. It's actually five historic neighborhoods on the west side of Savannah. It's Carver Village, West Savannah, Hudson Hill, Bayview, Woodville, and Rosenau Hill in Garden City. Those are
Hmm.
historic. Those are places where Black people have been there for over 150 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And so there's places that Black people occupy. Okay, so when I'm talking about ownership and how Black business and Black education and Black churches are doing, I define control like this. What is it do I have influence with over? Who do I have influence with? That's my idea of control. Wherever and see, and I can say that wherever I am, Sister Mona Lisa. See,
Yeah.
see, if I'm in Rosenau Hill or if I'm in a prison cell, I can always ask myself, what influence do I have over who come in this cell?
Now,
What
you know,
influence do I have? What influence do I have over what go on in this cell? What influence do I have over what come into this neighborhood? Who come into this neighborhood? What
yeah.
go on is see, because I can't talk about ownership because every time I say ownership, you know what somebody's gonna say? You ain't got no money. You don't own nothing.
And then
So why
see,
would I engage in a conversation that from the outset somebody gonna shut me down? No, I'm talking
Elder,
about what do we control where we live? And
you are blowing my mind right now, sir. Because I mean, let's really break that influence word down. A lot of people don't understand the power of influence.
yes, that's a good, and that's that's up to me. I don't allow people to define things for me. If you ask me a question, I give you my answer.
I
And
love
so,
it.
and so the way I define control is I say, Ned, okay, this is the place you in. I don't say this is the place I own. This is the place you in. Now,
Right,
what influence do you have with who come into space?
right.
Ned, what influence do you have over what go on in this space? Because it is through that influence that I can now create power. Power is the material base for organization.
Ooh,
Organization is the material base for unity. You can't have a meeting and come out and talk about we unify. No, you got to have a material, just like land is the material base for freedom, organization is the material base for unity. And so when Mona Lisa and Ned are working together, man, we decided to do something, man, and we just doing it when we said we was gonna do it,
yeah,
and we
right.
got the stuff we need. See, when people looking outside of us, they like, oh man, they on the one, they 100. Actually, they unified. Actually, they're describing our level of organization.
Mm,
Organization is the material basis for unity. If you have poor organization, you got poor unity. It's not personal. It's not about whether you beautiful, I'm smart, or you strong. No, it's organization. If you and I can't decide on something we want to work together, and when we gonna do it, and what we got to work with,
yeah.
ain't
The
no unity.
Yeah, you're right. The power of unity and organizing is huge. And so we could basically go back in time, not too far back, and realize when we did come together and organize, we created Black Wall Street. We created areas of a business. I mean, think about it. Black Wall Street was not just in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was in every state. You
Mhm.
had a Black Wall Street. Good morning, everybody. If I didn't address you, good morning. Elder is on a roll here, so I'm like zoomed in. But good morning, everybody. Powerful, just plain powerful. Organize, organize, organize. Yes, Julius, organize, organize, organize. So, what would you say the percentage is of Black businesses here in Savannah? Do we have a large percentage of Black businesses that are prospering? You know what I mean?
Well, let me address this issue. We talk about Black Wall Street or Haiti in Raleigh or Sweet Auburn in Atlanta. Now, those people didn't get together and say we're gonna build a Black Wall Street. They didn't have
Uh,
a meeting. They have a meeting. Say, oh, we need a Black Wall Street. So we
right.
go. No, they were struggling against racist white supremacists. They were struggling against them and they were pushed into territory. That's why, if you do not have a proper understanding of African history, everything else you understand will only confuse you. And because I have a proper understanding of African history, then I understand that the people that I belong to, wherever we go in the world, whether we go as conquerors, where we go, the people are better and the place is better. If we go as explorers, when we leave, the people are better, the places are better. If we go as captives in chains, we came here in chains.
Yes.
The people who enslaved us, we made them the richest people in the world. That's how
My
we
goodness.
do. And
It,
so, just
oh,
imagine, they asked. They asked our great great grandparents after they were emancipated if they could survive. The answer back to white people was, we took care of ourselves and you. If we no longer have to take care of you,
You better say that,
so
Elder.
so what I understand is that the proper starting point for analysis is to think about what we control. I'm not saying ownership is not important, but let's not participate in a conversation that automatically puts us at a disadvantage. Yeah,
That's good.
let's start with what do we control, because we understand that's the material basis for power. And what we need is power. Black
That's
people are catching hell not because they don't love Jesus. Who loved Jesus more than us? Who loved
true.
Allah more than us? Come on now. Who more passionate than us? Who's
Right.
stronger than us? Who run faster than us? Who think quicker than us? Who got more style than us? We are catching hell because we are powerless.
Wow.
We're
Wow.
locked up in prisons and jails because we are powerless.
You know, that's a good segue to the next topic that we were going to talk about, African literature. So on Fridays, you educate us on not just African American class literature. You break it down from the motherland. I mean, can you tell us about these classes that you have on Friday?
Sure. Every Friday, 7 p.m., we have a Zoom conversation. It's titled Understanding African History. And we use as our guiding theme the counter racist logic of Dr. Neely Fuller. If anyone who's interested in reading more, there's a whole lot on Neely Fuller
Oh
in the
wow.
code, and also Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, especially the color theory of confrontation. White supremacy racism is a disease. It's not only a disease now, but it is a disease. So, Sister Mona Lisa, what you and I are faced with is that we having to fight for our liberation, but we're injured, not just physically, we're injured psychically.
Yeah, that's
Someone here is damaged, and it's
yeah.
been damaged by white supremacy racism, but it's not only in my head, it's definitely in the head of those people who classify themselves as white people. So, what we need to understand as we fight against the system, we need to understand not just the material, but the immaterial, the psychic trauma. And so, for you to be effective, for me to be effective, for Brother Julius to be effective, we have to acknowledge that we've had this damage.
Mm.
The damage is psychic and it's psychological, and that we white people and black people went to the same class. We got the same education. White people look at things through white supremacy lens. Black people look at things through white supremacy lens.
Man, so how do we look? How do we start looking at life differently? Where do we start?
That's why we need a proper understanding of African history. African history is world history. If Donald Trump want to understand how he got where he is today, he must have a proper understanding of African history. As I say, we're African people because of our culture, not because of melanin. If we look at melanin, well, everybody comes from black people. Donald Trump comes from black people. Donald Trump is a mutation of black people. Why?
Right,
Because everybody was melanated. But
right.
what makes you and I unique is that we're from those people that stayed where human beings came. And for tens of thousands of years, we've been getting up every morning, doing things that human beings do and bumping into each other. And what has happened over those tens of thousands of years, we have developed ways of doing things that's way ahead of other human populations.
Wow,
So this
wow.
class is about that. It's an international class. We have African people from all over the world that participate in this. If you know, in fact, we're working to format it in a way that, say, a platform like All Things Relevant, it could be on that platform. And of
Hmm.
course, one of the things we're concerned about in our conversation is we don't have conversations in public. We don't talk about liberation and then hold a press conference. That's dumb.
Well, I love it. I absolutely love it. Now, for those who have joined in, good morning. And also, we're going to hopefully get that link to the class. So, can anyone attend this class
If
on
you
Friday?
know someone, if you know someone with that link, they will share the link with you. Uh,
Okay.
and at this point, we're working on a way of putting this up on a platform like All Things Relevant, so it
Okay.
can be streamed live. But I would like to acknowledge that there's the black people are living under different conditions, and if some black people, if they had this kind of conversation that you and I are having right now, the police would show up at their door and drag you off, and we wouldn't know what happened to you.
That is
So
just so crazy to liberation. It's like you're cussing people out. And that's the part that I just don't understand. When you love who you are, that's not saying that we hate someone or we're after someone else. We're just loving who we are. We're learning who we are. Why is that so crazy to you? Why is that so offensive to you? To the point to where, but look at the news. Okay? The color of our skin gets under their skin, and it's irritating them. When we step in the room, we don't have to say anything. And that's the part that I'm I'm blown away.
how about this? How about this? How about this? No, what really outrages white supremacists is when you have aspirations, is when you are successful. Why did they burn Black Wall Street down? Because the people were successful.
Yeah.
Why did they destroy West Broad Street? Because the people were successful. They didn't destroy West Broad Street because they wanted to bring a highway in. Why is it that wherever they put these highways, whether it's Savannah or Atlanta or Raleigh, why is it that they found the most prosperous? They had black slums back in the 60s. Why didn't they run the highway through the black slums? Answer that. They chose the space where you were successful because nothing outrages white supremacists more than for you to be successful. They can't
Wow.
sleep at night.
Wow, wow, wow. And you're telling the truth because one show that I've been watching and I'm addicted to it, it's called Greenleaf it is? No, 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 Queen Sugar. Queen Sugar had a series. I mean, the series is just phenomenal. But there's one thing that really stood out to me. They were trying to, get together and make a highway. So this highway could be anywhere, but they chose to make the highway go through black people's land.
How about that?
So when you said that, it just rang bells. That's what they do. They take this information and they sit it in the middle of where we are and what we're doing.
Not just where we are. Your aspirations, your success is the source of outrage for the white supremacists. On January 6th, what I saw, because I have a proper understanding of African history, what I saw was a white race riot. So why were white people in Washington, D.C. rioting? Why were they having a race riot?
Mm,
Because for the first time in the U.S. history, African people in America made white people do something they didn't want to do. In
mm,
the past, when I was younger in my 20s and teens, the black vote was a swing vote. You have, see, it was 45-45 white people, and when they had an issue, then they'd come and get us, and then we would be the 10% or 6% that swung them over to 51% so that they could win. But what happened in 2020? In 2020, especially in places like Georgia,
yes,
Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Texas, especially in places like that,
right.
black people got together and acted in a way. Think of Georgia. Georgia is like the home of Stone Mountain. And in Georgia, black people made white people do something that they did not want to do. That's why those people were in Washington, D.C. And if it had been more black people that it had gotten to, it would have been more bloodshed. They were enraged because you and me made them do something that they say there is no right that you and I have that a white person is bound to respect. It was true in 1857. It was true in 1957. It's true in 2021. And if you and I doing anything, any difference, they're going to be outraged. And let me add this, one of the things that we want to be careful of
Mm-hmm.
is letting these folks keep talking about individuals. No, it's a racist system. If you want to
Right.
know, if you ask yourself a question, how is it that in a city where the mayor is dark skinned, the chief of police is dark skinned, the school superintendent is dark skinned, the
Right.
county commission chairman is dark skinned, everywhere you go, you see dark skinned people in the back office, right? But
Yes.
you still catching hell.
Right.
Why is it
And
that you still catching hell? Because if you put a black face on white supremacy, it's still white supremacy.
let's play with that a little bit. A lot of people think that all because you're black, you're gonna do the right thing. But once again, white supremacy is a disease. It's a sickness. I don't care what color you are, you can have that sickness of white supremacy. So that can come from a Hispanic person, that can
Right,
come from a black person, that
right,
can come from an Asian person.
right.
White supremacy is a disease, it's a sickness. And I know you said Pentecostal. If you want to really break it down, it's an evil. It's a
Yes,
spirit. It's an
yes.
evil
Don't get me
spirit.
started now because I might start speaking in tongues. I'm one of the revolutionary holy rollers.
It's
I still
totally
love
true.
I still love Jesus, but I'll be praying for him to guide my fists in the right direction.
Oh, believe me. I mean, I saw a comment earlier. They were saying that, basically we made it because it's in our DNA. And a couple of weeks ago, Dr. Jamal was on the show, and
Great brother, great brother.
yeah, the only reason we're survived this long is that it is in our DNA to survive. That is huge because we're descendants from the ones that made it. That's what, we talked about that. When you sit in that and you realize your ancestors were the ones that made it from the ship, made it from the sharecropping, slavery, whatever you want to think about, you are descendants of those black people. So it's in your DNA, not just to survive, but to thrive. We're talking about black women and black men making the GPS system, the NASA, how they going and how they're ending up going in space, and all of these mathematics and science. All of this is from us. It originated from us. Not everybody understands that, and that's the education that we have to give our black children. Because if you
Right.
go to a black child, oh, I don't do math. Oh, yes, you do. You do it well. I don't do science. Oh, yes, you do. You do it well. But
And
you
we're
have
going
to know.
and we're going to point out how well organized our people are. See, what part of the white supremacy paradigm is that anything that you do don't make no difference, or if it do make a difference, it makes very little difference. In other words, to low rate and denigrate anything that you do. And the more important things that you do in regards to white supremacy, that's really like either not talked about or pushed down. For instance, it is organization that is the material basis for unity, not passion. Organization. So let's look at a place like First African Baptist Church. Okay, First African Baptist Church, the African
Oh, wow.
people. Okay, so look at this. The African people who built the building that we go in and out of and tourists go in and out of. Okay, when they had a building but they had an issue. Increasingly, the enslavers was being more and more brutal to our people. And so they had to
Wow.
find a way, an effective way to have those people escape, either being sold or being beat to death. Okay, so now you have people that, I mean, not 10 or 20, I'm talking about hundreds. They had a congregation of over 2,000 people. And who were
Wow.
these people? Who were these people? These are people who was working in the field all day, and they came to that spot into the city. They had to walk 1 mile, 5 miles, 8 miles. They came and they worked by moonlight. They work by torchlight. If you go on the tour, they will show you the bricks that those people made. You will see their palm prints in the back of them bricks.
Oh,
And what does that have to do with organization? Because in order for them to do that, they had to give up the money that they had accumulated personally for to buy their freedom, to buy their loved ones' freedom. Pastor Marshall had a chat with them, and he said, "We got to build this thing, but we got to have your money." And those people had to make a decision. What
yeah.
I'm going to take this money that I spent a decade, was I going to take it and put it together with these other people and build something that was going to benefit all of us, or was I going to buy my mama out of slavery? They had to make that choice. And
Ooh,
they
man.
made that choice for us so that you and I can sit here today and talk about how they did and think about it. They built this in the 1850s, and it was built a block away from the auction block. How
Oh,
bad is that?
oh my
It was built
gosh.
a block away from the auction block. How bad were these black people? They would build an escape route to the river 1 block away from the auction block. And it was over 2,000 people, and nobody told. So get away from here with that foolishness about we can't do nothing because somebody go tell.
My
Didn't
goodness.
nobody tell?
My goodness. My
So
good.
are we capable of organizing ourselves to do what need to be done? Yes, we are. How else we would be here? Who else was with us but God and each other? Ain't nobody
That's
was
true.
with us. Ain't nobody
That's true.
came to our rescue. The fact that you and I sit here today is a testament that our people, through wind and rain and fire and flood and everything that you could imagine, pulled together. Don't let
Yeah.
nobody tell you that foolishness about what black people won't do. There ain't nothing I won't do.
And there is nothing we can't
And
do.
there's nothing we can't do. You got that part right. If it's
That's
gonna
right.
be, it's gotta be we. White folks told us if it's gonna be, it's gotta be me. No, African people understand if it's gonna be, it's gotta be we. If I need to do something quickly, I don't need you. But if I need to do something that takes some time, I need you.
And that's that right there. That right there takes me to our next topic: money, finances. You just said something that I did not know. And I'm telling you, when I get some new knowledge, my fingers and my toes start to twinkle. When you think about what we have sacrificed to get where we are and what we need to do and have or whatever, we sacrificed so much. So when you talk about financial literacy and Black wealth, let's talk a little bit about that.
Okay, all right. Let's say that wealth is really about well-being. So one of the things that you can see, you go all over the world, you can see people that don't have a lot and they be happy. You can
Right.
see people that don't have a lot and ain't nobody stealing from each other.
That's
You can
true.
see people that don't have a lot, ain't no police. How they do that? Because when we pull together and share what we got, share the little we got, and can
Right.
you give me a cup of sugar and I give you some rice, and you get home late for work, and I look
Right.
at see, so that is the foundation, of wealth. We African, we gonna start with that. We understand that the material base for freedom is land. And so whenever we talk about wealth, it's got to be tied to land.
Yeah.
Money, currency is a fiction. When you go in the bank, to make a loan. When they
Right.
approve that loan, where does that $100,000 come from? They don't go in the vault and get it. The man opens up his laptop, clicks a cursor. That cursor created 100. It's a fiction.
And you
The
know,
cursor created so if I'm so focused in on making money and someone is creating money by clicking a button, how will I ever win? I'll never win unless I'm one of those people that's clicking the buttons.
Elder, I'm telling you right now. I mean, let's just marinate in that right now. When you realize that money is fictional, when you realize that heaven's currency is faith, when you realize when you have faith with your land, you are rich. Period, point blank, because they will pay whatever for your land. That I mean, you are rich when you have power.
Right. And we want to teach our children be the money. You be the money. Don't be the don't be a borrower or a lender. You be the money. You be the thing that people work and then come bring you what they got.
Yeah,
Think about
that's
that. People
it.
work hard. People will work, will scrimp and save and borrow to buy a ticket to see Beyonce.
Right.
She's the money.
She's the that's what's
Teach our
going
children,
down.
teach our children to be that. What is it that you have? Right now, Brother Jewish is putting up this platform. It's a media platform that can be used by anybody that want to talk about sense and pass out knowledge for liberation and freedom. It can be
Right.
used any kind of way, but
Right.
we can use that. And what will happen because the people that put all things relevant together are willing to make it a platform that is professional,
Right.
that is consistent,
Right.
because they're willing to do something that's necessary for me and you. Guess what? This brother keep up with that. This brother gonna be rich.
Exactly. And
So, so, so did he start? But what I'm saying is just in terms. This is financial literacy. So we don't let people talk about. Oh, start with your budget. Well, if you live in a situation where each month you just trying to decide whether to pay the water bill or how many minutes to get on your light bill, what sense would it make you having a budget?
yeah.
But what you can say is, look, you can have control over things. How is that? Wherever you are, you got some kind of influence over who's in your space. You got some kind of influence on what on in your space. Now, how you gonna use that for liberation? How you gonna use that to live a free life? That is financial literacy, because what you will find yourself saying to yourself is, and to your children, okay, we got enough to eat. Okay, but we need more. What we gonna do? What we got to work with? Oh, well, I got some wood. Well, Junior's artistic. So we go. Oh, I got some copper. Then the little train go around picking up copper. Mom and daddy making jewelry and stuff like that.
Yes.
You don't
Yes.
start with, we need some money and what we go. No, you start where you are. You start
That's
with what
beautiful.
you have. You
That's
start with what you
beautiful.
know, and you build on that. And who knows, someday you sitting out there and somebody from SCAD pass by and go, wow, that's some amazing jewelry.
Yeah.
Can you make some of that for me?
Right. That's in the Bible as well. With the Elijah told the woman, how many oil containers do you have? Because as long as she was giving him those containers, he was filling it with oil. God is asking, what's in your hands, Moses? What's in your hands? You have everything in you already to do whatever
That's
you need to do.
powerful. That's powerful.
What's in your hands? What's the life skill, gift, talent, whatever the case may be that you have that you can make in this pandemic or mandemic, whatever you want to call it. You have the most businesses right now that has opened up because of the need or the demand right now. People have opened businesses making masks, hand sanitizers, whatever, because what do you have? what is in your wallet, as
Mhm.
Capital One says?
Mhm.
What do you have going on for yourself that can make you wherever, whatever you want to be? I don't know if your goal is to be a millionaire, billionaire, whatever, but you start with what you have. That's
Right.
one.
My goal is I was born free. See, so the struggle for me is to live free. Every human being is born free. The
Mm,
struggle then becomes to live free. And so it's our responsibility to create the conditions so that our children and children's children can walk upright. I hopefully am the last of a generation that know how to scratch their head when it don't itch, know how to laugh when things not funny, and who be careful how they say things so that white people don't think they're more intelligent than they are.
oh my
I
goodness.
learned how to say yes, sir, and yes, ma'am, not just because of manners. It was a survival skill.
Yeah. Now,
But if you think I want to pass that on to my grandchildren, no, I do not, because they were created to walk upright. I know how to navigate crooked spaces, but I do not want my grandchildren and children to have that skill. If I could, I wouldn't share it with them, because
yeah,
I want to believe that we can create the conditions where our children, children's children, will walk upright and be the kind of human beings that God has created us to be. We are the exceptional people. We are the vanguard of the people. We are exceptional as African people because we are ancient. Where is our birth certificate?
oh, now wait a minute. You said a mouthful right there. I'm going to rewind a little bit of what you just said. You are the first elder person that I've heard say you don't want to leave your children or your children's children with that mentality.
Oh
Now,
no.
one thing I've heard is, it's like back in the day, you see the slave movies and all that, and you saw how hard it was for us to say yes or no, sir, or to do different things, but we had to do it as a survival. But now it's like you have to understand the difference between the two. You don't have to do that as survival anymore. You don't have to, like you say, scratch your head when it don't itch. You don't have to do that anymore. So why do it? Be proud of who you are, and all at the same time, don't give in to what they want you to
And we don't
introduce yourself as.
come on, Lisa. Whatever is necessary. We're intelligent people. We educate for liberation. We make money for liberation. We make love for liberation. We get married for liberation. We go to church for liberation. So whatever we do, it is because why? Because people are fighting against us. We're not fighting against them. They're
Mm,
fighting against us.
I
We
know.
we live in a state where a white supremacist governor, a white supremacist secretary of state, that man Buddy Carter is a white supremacist, racist.
Wow.
He should not be in the halls of Congress. In fact, he should be in a jail cell.
Mm, mm,
If
mm.
we accept that this is the reality that our children face, our children have been telling us for generations, Mama, that policeman treat us differently. We like, oh boy, you just need to stop being bad. And no, you wasn't listening. He said that policeman. And so what
That.
we understanding now is that within these law enforcement, within the sheriff department, within the courts, you have these race soldiers. You have these white extremists within these organizations, and the people and the police telling my children about stop snitching, you start snitching. That thin blue line lie, because it's a lie, because you know who these people are. And don't be talking about he's a bad apple. No, he's a white extremist, racist, race soldier, a threat to every non-white person that they come into contact with on a daily basis. If he's the correctional officer inside of these penitentiary, the black people that are in there, their lives are at greater danger. If he's sitting,
Mm,
she is sitting, yeah, because we ain't just talking about Columbus, we talk about Columbusinas and John Hawkinettes, and it ain't just the males. But what I'm suggesting to you is that if these these raised soldiers are sitting on these courts without
Mm,
trying to go.
race culture.
Look, Sister Monalisa, if you want to know where these people hiding at, start looking at who run the human trafficking task force, who
Oh,
victim witness task force,
uh-oh,
who run
uh-oh.
the gang task force. I promise you, when you begin to look at who you see some of the most virulent and
Ooh,
racist that you could imagine. These are
woo,
the people that when these raised soldiers kill our children and injure
mm,
our children, these are the ones that sit up there on the bench and say, justified.
my goodness. You just said a mouthful, Elder. When you break that down like that, oh my goodness. It's not even in, like he said earlier, it's not even in our DNA to think of such horror
Right.
and
You're right.
disgust
You're right.
and
You're right.
just just evilness. It's not even in us. You know, that reminds me. I just saw Judas and the Black Messiah. And I heard about the Black Panthers. I read about the Black Panthers, but to know the extent of what I forgot his name, but know the extent of what he did for the FBI against the Black Panthers. Me and my husband was talking about that. You not only stopped the leader, you stopped a movement, and the fact that the evilness, the thought that you are willing to not just stop him but kill him, and for what? Because he was uplifting his community. I just don't understand how you can be so evil.
Well, one of
And
the things we want to be careful of now, Chairman Fred said, you can kill the revolutionary, but you can't kill the revolution. So obviously, Chairman Fred didn't see himself as a messiah. J. Edgar Hoover used that as an excuse to attack any black. Again, it is our aspirations that they hate. It wasn't so much what he was saying. It wasn't so much what Dr. King was saying. It wasn't so much what Meg Ed was saying. It's that
yeah,
they had aspirations, that they thought that they could be something other than what white people define them as.
right,
And
right.
so one of the things that we want to be concerned with, all the reviews I've seen is that this is an amazing movie. It's well done. The cinematography is great. But we
It's
don't
wonderful.
forget that William O'Neill was 17 years old.
Wow.
Think
You
about
know,
think about think about where your head was when you were 17 and 18 years old and didn't know nothing about Dr. King and didn't know nothing about
right,
so
right.
all you know was how to get it like it come. So
Yes,
because let's not forget now who was Detroit Red.
right, right.
Red is the one that we like. Oh, we love Malcolm. No, when Detroit Red, when Malcolm was that age, he was
Yeah.
Detroit Red. He was scum. He
You
was
know,
robbing drug dealers and scamming people and selling our sisters to white men. That's what he was doing. And so,
let me,
if we were to limit his life to what he did when he was 18, 19, and 20
yeah. Let me go ahead and bring
years old, then the heroines. But here's the difference that I see between Malcolm and William O'Neill is that Malcolm began to educate himself and get a proper understanding of who he was. William O'Neill didn't. Malcolm became our saint and our hero. William took his life. And what I'm saying today to any young black woman, any young black man under the sound of my voice, that what we need is generals. We need secretary generals. We need secretaries of state. We need ministers of education. Sister Mona Lisa need to be the minister of cultural affairs. That's what we need today. We got lawyers and gangsters and police chiefs and mayors. We need some generals.
yes, yes. Now, speaking of that, let me bring in one of my generals or one of Savannah's generals, Gary Monroe. Jump in here,
Gary.
sir.
Good morning, Brother Elder. How you
Yes,
doing, sir?
yes, sir, man. I'm good. I'm good.
I hear you this morning empowering the people.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, you my people, you my children. I'm an elder, and what that means is that I can't make a distinction between you and your brother and your sister. When y'all fight each other, my heart hurt.
Right.
Yeah,
Because I
yeah.
can't take sides because both of you belong to me. And my goal is to see you operate in peace. So when I see the image that I'm looking at right now, that makes my heart full.
Well,
Well, thank you.
with the last 10 minutes of the show, Elder, what we do is we open up the floor for questions with, for our audience. If our audience has any questions, we like to answer them last 10 minutes of the show. And I know I saw a ton of comments. So if we could bring some of those comments, I don't know if they were questions, but if we can bring some of those back, that would be great.
Well, let me chime in. As I was listening in to what Elder and yourself were talking about, and you was talking about the movie Judas and the Messiah. And it's interesting that the focus more so of that movie is Judas,
How
but
about that?
we have to understand that why the second half of it is entitled Messiah. Now we know the main characters in that movie and the real life characters were Fred Hampton, William O'Neill, and Hoover, and the FBI agent. And what we got to understand is too is that COINTELPRO was an FBI tactic to be able to slow down and disenfranchise and disrupt any movement that was against the status quo. And I'm certain Elder knows this already and can fill me in and teach me some stuff about it. But it was targeted mainly for anyone who they determined was messianic in nature.
Yeah.
Okay. To be messianic in nature is one who has the capacity to inspire and motivate and move people to action. And so when you think about a Fred Hampton, messianic in nature, when you think about Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, messianic in nature, when you think about Malcolm X, messianic in nature, when you think about even today a Louis Farrakhan, messianic in nature, when you think about Marcus Garvey, messianic in nature, Mandela, messianic in nature. So this is why you would see all of these individuals, they at the forefront of the movements and the activities that they were involved in. This is why they were threatened even the more, because it's consistent with the word. If you strike the head, the sheep will scatter. And so that was a direct strategy of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, COINTELPRO.
Wow. Okay. So Anthony says, I agree, but what was supposed to be a perceived black empowerment movie was used to showcase a black man who was a snitch. That they could have done more to display the goodwill of the Black Panther Party instead of the leather jacket and guns.
Well, I agree that the depiction of the movie was the focus on Judas, but I think also what we can take from that movie as a people that we are in the midst of a movement today that has not been as such in the last 50 years is that it doesn't pay to be a Judas.
Right.
But let me comment.
Yes.
Now what we want to be careful of is that the devil left his name out of the movie. See, it was Judas, Messiah, and the devil.
And the devil.
The devil left his name out of the movie. And what we have to
Absolutely.
be careful of, I understand that we use by any means necessary, but we're dealing with powers and principalities. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers and principalities in high places. So we know that the devil is the originator of lies. Don't talk with the devil. If you talk with the devil, what will happen is you're going to get the short end of the stick. Don't believe, people say, I know how to talk to white people. Well, you might know how to talk to white people, but you don't know how to get around the devil. And if you, in one way of avoiding that is not to have conversations with them. So what I'm looking for is for us to do a better job of telling our own story, because
Right.
our own story is that in that apartment, there was supposed to be all of the Black Panthers there. The deal was there was a meeting going on in that apartment. And when the police got there, it was supposed to be full of them. They're going to wipe the whole chapter out. But
Wow.
something happened so that the people couldn't stay and they left. And when they wound up, only the people that was there. And you're right. We have to understand that it wasn't just Fred Hampton. Fred Hampton became a standout because all the other people wasn't there. And if we look at things like SWAT and things like that, those SWAT teams came into effect to deal with young Black people. We all know that the Crips and the Bloods, those were the 13 and 14-year-old brothers and sisters of people who were building the Black Panther Party for self-defense. In Oakland, young boys and girls who looked up to Huey P. and those other people in their particular neighborhoods, they started calling something called Community Revolution in Progress. Today we call it the Crips. But
Wow.
what we don't understand is the role of the, even we talking about putting a knee on George Floyd's neck. Don't you know that it's young Black men and women that have knees put on their neck every single day, even while we speaking, are having a knee. And if you had heard them back in June, they would have said, shoot, man, I knew sooner or later they was going to kill somebody. Not I knew sooner or later they was going to put a knee on somebody's neck, because that happened every day. Right now, where we live, our Black youth are being rounded up and they're being used as publicity fodder. They're being kept on a string for years. Yeah, right now we talking all this stuff. Right now, where we live, we got young people trying to live a good life, trying to look after their children, trying to do the right thing. And you got these corrupt, racist dogs that will hold them on strings and dangle them on strings for years. And anytime they try to stand upright and walk upright, they come and snatch them. If you want to know more about it, you can talk to me. And they come and snatch them up, right? And put charges on them that the people are scratching their head like, where these charges come from? And what they don't understand is it's a time to submit the budget. So when it comes time to submit the budget, then, we got to have a gang roundup because we
Yeah.
need an increase in budget.
Yeah.
And when these
That's
white
true.
racists trying to mobilize their base out there, they're out there talking about Black people killing Black people. Who killed more Black people than these people? And, and,
Right.
and, and pimping out mothers who have lost their children and their sons, pimping them out. How
That's true.
many millions of Black mothers are there whose sons and daughters have been killed by these dogs?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the last 4 minutes we have, I saw someone was asking, should young people continue to say yes, sir, no, sir, or something like that? Yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am.
Any means, by any means, sir. Somebody stop you in the middle of the night and it's just you and two race soldiers. You say yes sir, no sir, hi sir, yes sir, I didn't know what I was doing.
Because it's about
No,
living to
sir.
see another day at that point.
Anything necessary, anything that you use to gain an advantage in a hostile situation is a weapon. A weapon is not just a gun.
Right.
You can use
Yes.
your tears. If you can turn that woman in Central Park, when the man told her to leash her dog, that woman took her tears. She dialed 911, and this white woman said, "Oh, African American man is a
Right.
sister." She weaponized her tears, and if he hadn't been careful, he would have lost his life.
Right.
Yes. And
So
the whole,
anything that you use to your advantage, don't just think one thing or the other. We in a war
yeah,
and we're
you have
fighting to win.
you have to use whatever you can to your advantage.
Thank you, ma'am.
Absolutely. We still have to teach people. We just have to stop teaching them to fear the white man.
Well, and it's and we have to categorize that there's a difference between respect and, as you stated, fear or being submissive. Uh, I had a lesson in respect. as well as pride, all at the same time. My mom worked for MC Anderson Incorporation. You remember, we see the Robert Baker trucks, the RB Baker trucks today. It was once MC Anderson. And one of her jobs were we cleaned the office. And one day he was in the office and I was just a little kid. And he walked in, he spoke to my mom, and then he turned around and spoke to me. And funny enough, instinctively, when I spoke to him, I had my head down. My mom said in that moment, she said, Gary, hold your head up and address Mr. Anderson. He puts his pants on just like your daddy. So from that time on, I've had the audacity and the know-it-all to hold my head up with pride. Okay, so I hear a lot of people say, well, I don't teach my kids to say yes sir or no sir because that's a slave mindset and slave mentality. There's a difference between respect and being submissive or dormant or
You're right.
slave mentality.
We're going to teach all you that we are human beings. We're going to walk upright. What does that mean? That means I respect you. That means I
That's
love
right.
you. That means
That's
I'm
right.
willing to sacrifice for you. I'm not going to let anybody twist me up. So I'm
Right.
acting other than that. And I will fight to be respectful. I will fight for you to be respectful.
Right.
Right.
And just again, let me thank Sister Monalisa. Before we cut out, let me really thank you for this opportunity, and I hope that there's something that I said that is useful to the people that chimed in this morning. And if I can be of assistance in the future, that's what I'm here for.
Well, thank you again for being my guest. I really appreciate it. Thanks everybody for tuning in this morning. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a great, wonderful day. And Elder, you are more than welcome to come back at any time. Love you. Thanks everybody. Have a great one. Bye-bye.